Yo, what's up? We out here. It's Buff Missionary back again, just enjoying some of this nature. Like, subscribe, share. You know how we roll, you know what to do. And coming back to the book, Steps to Christ. Man, I love this book. I love thinking about it. And I love looking for the lessons that it puts my mind onto. So, in the first video, all we talked about was the first line: nature and revelation alike testify of God's love. And hopefully, you were able to consider a little bit more of how that reality is present within nature. And with this video series on this, I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't have a plan for it. Just going to go through a little bit of the book at a time and see what lessons we can find. And if you have any other observations or things that stand out to you from what you're hearing from the book, go ahead and put them down in the comments and we'll talk about it, because there's definitely a whole lot more than just my perspective on this book that can be discovered and learned. And if you're getting different things, I want to know what you guys think so I can increase my own appreciation for what's here in the book and what else we could see out from nature. So, going on in the book, it says, "Our Father in heaven is the source of life, of wisdom, and of joy." Life, wisdom, and joy. Look at the wonderful and beautiful things of nature. The author here is trying to get us to make a connection between what we see out there in terms of life. We kind of get that because nature is life. But a lot of times when we look at nature, or when we're in nature, we're not necessarily looking for wisdom or places to increase our wisdom. And perhaps we should, if God is the author of creation, and if God is a God of wisdom and life and of joy, then we should be looking for these things when we are experiencing nature. Look at the beautiful things of nature. Think of their marvelous adaptation to the needs and happiness, not only of man, but of all living creatures. I don't know about you, but I know when I'm out here, those of you who know me, and if you've seen me back at home, or if you've seen me out here or in other places just adventuring around and exploring, you know that this is one of the places where I'm most happy. And a lot of it has to do with the people, for sure, but the nature is a big part of it as well. I mean, you can't, there's just something about it that's just refreshing. I remember when I was the chaplain here for the 4 years between 2015 and 2019, it became my habit to get my Bible, a couple pens, devotional book, and I'd go up before the sun would come up on the side of the chapel, kind of overlooking the lower half of campus, and you could see way out to where the sun would rise from. And it was absolutely incredible to be able to have my devotion and experience that with that kind of nature just waking up with me. I don't think I ever took, or maybe not often enough, I didn't take a camera up there often, but if I would have taken like time lapses or just pictures of the different days that I was up there, something different and special about each one. And it was just a place to be at peace, find what I needed for the day, and to go into the day and have a great day. And I'm pretty sure that those experiences are one of the reasons why I say I don't believe in stress. it's it's hard to stress on the little things that are my life when there's so much amazing, so many big things that God is in control of out in nature. So yeah, I believe that adaptation. Yet the sun rises every day, but it looks different every day. It doesn't look the same any 2 days. That's an adaptation that we can enjoy. That's why we continue to like sunsets with the variation of the clouds, and depending on if you're in the desert or if you're over the water, all those things are adaptations that help us to appreciate the same thing in a different way. That's what God is doing with nature, and I'm sure there's more that you can think of. It says not only of man but of all living creatures, the sunshine and the rain that gladden and refresh the earth. Do we ever think about it like that? That the sunshine and the rain. Most of us like the sun, we don't like the rain. I don't like bugs. There's a point to them too, I guess. But we don't. Maybe I shouldn't say we don't. Maybe I should just ask the question, do we? Do we think a lot of the fact that the sunny days are good days, but there's good things about rainy days too? Are we looking for the positives, the positive lessons in both of those experiences? Because the earth, the world loves it when the sun is shining, and the earth loves it when the rain is pouring down on it. It gets something from both. There's balance there. They gladden and refresh the earth, the hills, the seas, and the plains. All of this speaks to God and his love for us. And there's so many different ways you can take that, right? Like, when you look at plants, you think about plants and what they need to grow. If the plants only had sun, they would die. Probably get scorched and dry up. If they only had rain, they'd drown and they wouldn't be able to survive. But the plants like both the sun and the rain, and they need them both to be able to grow in the best flourishing way possible. When you think of our lives, sometimes we want to avoid those stormy days, right? And we wish that every day was just bright and sunny, but the reality is days like that without any balance, without any rain, without any storm, it's ultimately going to do more harm for you than good. You think about being out, especially out here, being out in the ocean. If it's a very bright and sunny day, that's great. But if that's the only thing and there's no cloud cover and there's never any rain that passes by, you can get dehydrated. You can definitely get sunburned. And the rain coming can be very refreshing to you out there on the boat as relief from all of that heat. You need both if you're going to flourish in the best way possible, the same way that the plants need both. And so many other things, I'm sure. It says, they all speak to us of the Creator's love. It is God who supplies the daily needs of all his creatures. In the beautiful words of the psalmist, this is Psalm 145, verses 15 and 16. The eyes of all wait upon you, and you give them their meat in due season. You open your hand, and you satisfy the desire of everything. Do we ever know of animals that have gotten stressed because they couldn't get what they needed? Have you ever talked to plants and heard them complain that they're so stressed out because they weren't getting what they needed? we probably don't talk to plants. I know some people do, but I don't know if that's something we really think of that often. Nature doesn't seem to be sweating the fact that some days it's hot and some days it's cold. Some days it rains. Some days there's storms. Sometimes it doesn't seem to be complaining about all of that. It's like it just knows all in due time it's going to get what it needs. It's interesting. Something interesting to think about. It says, God made man perfectly holy and happy in the fair earth, as it came from the Creator's hand, bore no blight of decay or shadow of the curse. It is transgression of God's law, the law of love, that has brought woe and death. Yet, even amid the suffering that results from sin, God's love is revealed. We know that we need, at least now in the way that things are. We need the tough times to help us become the best versions of ourselves. The most influential and the most inspirational of those influential people are not those who came into their status and station simply by birth, but it's because they went through a struggle and they accomplished something that makes them relatable and others want to relate to them too. When we look at nature, are there lessons out there that are showing us the things that we can do or the things that we can experience that can help take us to that next level? Where you think about it, the world is a level playing field for all of creation. And yet, anywhere you go in the world, you can find nature that's flourishing or life that is flourishing. Even in the hottest and driest of places, you can find the life that's out there, that's adapted and is surviving. And even in the coldest places on the planet, you can find life there that is adapting and surviving and thriving. And what about us? Do we think that there's only one way that we can go about living? Or in nature, are we getting a glimpse of the fact that wherever we're planted, wherever we live, that we can have a life that's flourishing? It may not look the same as what flourishing means in another part of the planet, but it can still be doing awesome for the place where we are. And you know, I think it's really amazing because when you look at the planet now, we see a lot of environmental concerns. There's a lot of problems that we're having to deal with. But when you think about it, what's really the source of these problems? Creation was doing okay without the manipulation of us that we brought to the table. And now, because of the way that we've decided to manipulate nature, we're realizing that we're killing it, and now we're trying to find a way to fix it. But nature has existed in its way for thousands and thousands of years, and it never needed our help to do it. So, is it possible that our input is, let me put it this way, what if we took a step back and just let nature do its thing? Is it possible that it would handle its own as it always has and make it through in a better and a more flourishing way? I don't know. I think so. But then again, what about in life? In our lives, the more we try to manipulate and control things, the more of a mess of things we make, don't we? What would happen if we let the natural order, God's order of things, take hold in our lives? Is it possible that things would even out and would become better and flourish in a more natural way, as opposed to us trying to manipulate every little detail of our lives? I don't know. Something to think about. And I'll finish with this line right here. It's transgression of God's law, the law of love, that has brought woe and death. Yet even amid the suffering that results from sin, God's love is revealed. It's not all bad. There's oftentimes a lot of things we can be thankful for, even despite the struggles. There are certain things that you can't know if other things are not present. And for us, in the way that we think, it's very hard for us to quantify how much God loves us if there isn't a problem that he has to solve by sacrificing himself for us to show us how much he loves us. It's hard to take something like that for granted. And we see that in the life of Christ, and I think there are places where we see that in nature too. Are we taking the time to pause and just consider the lessons that we could learn from nature? Not just about the things we don't like, but about how God's love can be shown to us through anything that's out there. Close with this. Yesterday we went diving, and one of the things we were trying to avoid, as always, is you want to have a nice day with a little bit of cloud cover so you don't get burned on the boat. But you also, when you see those clouds forming in the distance and the rain that you can visibly see coming down, you hope it stays over there, that it's blowing a different way. And yesterday, they were coming right towards us. Nothing we could do. It was coming towards us as we were chilling there, waiting to go on our last dive. And someone commented like, well, I hope that we see the storm coming, and I hope that it comes a little bit faster, and that while we're down under the water diving, it'll pass us completely, so when we come up, the storm will be gone and it'll be nice and sunny. And I thought that was interesting, because being underwater attached to a tank of air, or nitrox if you're one of those guys, like, that can be as scary as being in a storm for some people. And yet, if you have the option, it's actually warmer underneath, trusting in the BCD, trusting in the air tank. And the level of trust that you experience down there, once you resurface, often helps you to avoid that storm. We ended up sailing right back through the storm to get back. But it was nice for a little bit when we got out of the water. And I don't know. This is still something I'm thinking of. I don't have the answers. I'm just sharing some observations from a book that I really like. And it just makes me wonder, what else is out there that I could learn from, that I could see? So, this isn't to give you an answer or anything. I just hope it helps you to think about something in a different way. That's it. But I'm going to wrap this one up for now. It's getting a little warmer out here, so I'm going to go back inside. But we out here with the Buff Missionary. Like, subscribe, share. Please comment your thoughts below, what you think about nature and how you can see God's love in it, the positive and negative sides of those things. And we'll catch you in the next one. Let it do what it do, baby.